We're jumping right back into the ring here at MBX Films. We're going to open up the WWE Elite figure of The Big Show to go along with my Attitude Era collection. And we'll talk about kind of this time period of The Big Show here and why this fits into my collection range and just see how it stacks up and what he comes with here. So let's open him up. So we got this sort of plain stare face on the packaging, but he does have a grrr face on the figure. On the back bio, since it comes with the old WWF Championship, it does say about him winning the title at Survivor Series 1999. Remember that. I say we just get him open here first. This kind of was already damaged when I got it. Kind of weird. Does have his old WWF World Heavyweight title. Looks good. Again, it doesn't have the detail on the side plates. I guess Mattel just never puts the colored detail on the side plates for whatever reason. But the head, the main plate, has most of the detail colored in. And he comes with alternate grabby hands, which will be pretty useful for a Big Show figure, actually. Alright. That is a cloth removable shirt, and we'll get that off here in a little bit. So he does come with the fists out of the packaging. You can switch those for that open hand. He's got boots and shorts there, and then his old little ponytail from having the long hair, you know, as the Giant in WCW. The shirt design is a little faint, but you know, it's his Big Show logo that he would have had at this time period of winning the WWF Championship that he does come with. As it references on the packages, this is the time period that he did actually win the WWF title there, his first time. Kind of as I've been doing these videos, I'm kind of zeroing in on what my collection actually is, and it's more based on the Nintendo 64 wrestling games like WWF Wrestlemania 2000 and WWF No Mercy. It's kind of my guideline for what my Attitude Era collection is, but it's kind of out of that going off into you know, outside the Attitude Era time period with those games. So this is a kind of Big Show, not long, actually really shortly after the release of WrestleMania 2000, the game. Let's go ahead and swap his, do the obvious chokeslam hand there that he would always raise up. Of course, the interesting story is that the Big Show wasn't in WWF No Mercy, even though he was on the roster at the time, but the rumor was always that he was too heavy, and they didn't much like it. They wanted him to lose weight. He was just too big to be moving around and kind of for his health, and so as a punishment, they didn't put him in the video game, because if you're in the video game, you know, you're going to make money off of that you're a featured character in that game. So then, funnily enough, the story mode relies heavily on having the Big Show in it, because he was really involved in the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania storylines of that time. So they had to just replace the Big Show, and they just replaced him with Steven Richards. It was just like, okay, so they hadn't used Steven Richards in any of the story modes, so they just put him over. Problem is, he wasn't even a main eventer at that time, or really any time after that, so it was just always funny. You'd play the story modes, and it'd be Triple H and The Rock and Mick Foley and all that, and there would always be Steven Richards right there as the #1 contender all the time. It's because it was supposed to be the Big Show in the game, in the story modes. But so you can use a Game Shark and unlock the Big Show's face in the No Mercy game, and then, you know, I think his clothes and everything are there. His moves, of course, will be there since he was in those games since the WCW Revenge game. But that was always the interesting story, that you had to kind of make the Big Show in that game, even though he should have been in the game. But just one of those stories. There's his two grab hands there. So we can try. I'm surprised that it didn't come with another head since he had the yelling, but I guess probably getting the full gold belt and the cloth shirt and alternate hands really at that point. So of course that always just opens in the back to makes it a lot easier to take off. So actually, if I wanted to, this isn't 100% accurate because these are longer tights, but you can kind of use this Big Show as when he was in the tag team with The Undertaker as the Unholy Alliance. When the tag title scene was, you know, the Acolytes and Kane and X-Pac as a team. It was the Land of the Giants, where X-Pac was kind of the smaller tag team contender at the time. You could pair this with a sweet, you know, ministry-looking Undertaker and kind of have their Unholy Alliance tag team had the awesome theme song and stuff. But again, I think that time he had shorter tights, which was always a weird look, I feel like, for a big guy like this. But Since the shirt is pretty awesome, very thin material, but probably be displaying him with the shirt on, kinda being singles Big Show. Careful with his little ponytail on the outside there. I don't know if I'll just do both the open hands, but he'd always do the kind of arm raise pose, you know, calling for his choke slam. I'm gonna guess that the belt actually isn't even long enough for him to wear it. Yeah, and I think he did wear his title when he was champion. I'm just going off memory, but the figure's just gonna have to hold it over the shoulder or in his hands. But then again, on that note, Big Show was kind of the first world champion I saw not get put in the main event of shows and pay-per-views. He was champion, but there was bigger things going on, so he was not even in the main event or the last match of the shows while he was champion. So that was kind of my first experience as a younger wrestling fan of wondering why he wasn't the main event despite being the world champion. And it's because sometimes there's just bigger things going on than the title. So probably won't even really display the Big Show with the WWF title. It's nice to have a couple of these where I can kind of give them to some of the more notable champions of the time, like Rock and Stone Cold, Mankind. People like that. Big Show's run pretty short, but notable enough that I like that they did the figure of that time period, because that's pretty good point for him. Obviously, you know, typically the height of your career is when you're the world champion. I mean, on most metrics, is it not? But this Big Show can kind of, since he had this look for quite a bit of those key years there, that after leaving WCW and becoming changing from the Giant to the Big Show, especially that little ponytail there, that'll fit right into my collection pretty well. So I am glad that they did this figure for him. And he's a big part of the video game rosters, even though he was purposefully not put into one of the games. But you could create him easy enough. So he fits right in with my sort of Attitude Era / Nintendo 64 video game rosters collection. So happy to have him. Of course, he has, you know, very sizable, but that doesn't limit his joint movement all that much, so going for the big high kick there, you know. And I actually kind of like this kind of grrr face. Usually I'm not a huge fan of those, but this one definitely still has the likeness, you know. And that's what's important, because he's representing that wrestler, that time period. He's got the face, got the look, got the accessories, alternate hands, which is a fairly new concept for these, so pretty good package altogether. We'll